Hey guys, project-zodiac here. I'm back with another video. This is part 3 of my 3-part The Genius of Boruto video essays. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts, they're not required, but it will help you guys understand what I'm saying with this one, as I do reference a lot of things from those first 2, and I will be mentioning that this was in part 1 or this was in part 2. But again, they're not required to fully enjoy this video. This video is going to be the biggest out of the 3, as I'll be talking more about the entire Boruto series, so manga, books, anime, and basically just the entire development behind Boruto. With all of that said, let's get started. Boruto is the sequel series to Naruto, and it's actually been doing a lot of great things in my opinion. And it's also a lot different than Naruto or most animes and manga series for the most part. And the way it's doing everything is very interesting. But before we get into that, let's just quickly go over the development for Boruto. You see, near the end of Naruto, around the time that Kaguya appeared, which was during the war arc, Masashi Kishimoto and his team began to plan out the Otsutsuki, but they knew they wouldn't have that much time to really develop them other than Kaguya herself. So they began to think of a sequel, and from what I understand, they began to make notes and plans for Boruto and how the sequel series would really expand on the Otsutsuki. They began to plan out as well how to handle the actual sequel series and in which directions it was gonna go, with just some rough ideas in place. They then began to add those ideas into the Naruto series as sort of like a little seed so that they could expand it on Boruto. This can be seen with some of Kaguya's backstory and some of the other Tsutsuki members as, shadow characters that end up appearing in Boruto. And even the ending as well is showing basically how things are peaceful, which is how Boruto starts. But even so, with all of that said, the sequel series was still not 100% set, even with all the notes that they did make. So they decided to make the movie, the Boruto movie, and if it was successful, they would go ahead with their notes, develop them even more, and then make the sequel series. And in the end, the film was successful, and they went and made the manga and anime that we have now. But they changed things up a little bit in the anime from the movie, and just basically in the way that manga teams and anime departments handle the source material. You see, Naruto was a weekly manga at about 20 pages every week, and it ran for 700, technically 710 chapters. And Kishimoto was the main person doing basically all of the work. He did have assistants, but it was still mostly him. I mean, he drew mostly everything, he wrote everything for the most part. And basically, a weekly manga schedule is really hard on someone, especially for the length that Naruto ran. So while he was okay with making Boruto, he didn't want to be the one to draw it or even fully write it. So he asked one of his assistants to draw the manga and the co-writer of the Boruto movie to write the manga, while he himself would be supervising everything and basically having to give his approval for everything regarding Boruto and the episodes and chapters that came out. He's also at times the one that comes up with some initial ideas or plots for the Boruto stories and just helps giving advice, for the character designs and tell them what to change along with the script as well. Both Kishimoto and Kodachi, the writer of Boruto, supervises the entire Boruto anime, and they both have to approve of everything that happens there as well. So with this format now in place, they also decided to have the manga be monthly instead of weekly. This ends up giving us about 40 pages a chapter instead of 20, but that's not the only changes they made as well. See, like I said in part 1 of this 3-part essay, usually an anime that is adapting a manga uses the manga as the source material, so whatever episodes they make that don't have anything to do with the manga or was not in the manga is usually not canon to the story. Usually this has some exceptions, as sometimes the manga author will say this is canon even though it's not in the manga. But due to these filler episodes, many animes have huge episode counts when it really shouldn't be that long. This is an issue that Naruto, Dragon Ball, One Piece, and many other animes have. And the team behind Naruto knows that the Naruto anime was stuck in what fans called filler hell for many, many episodes. So they wanted to take a different approach when it came to the Boruto anime, and what they did, in my opinion, was basically genius. First, it seems that they followed a format that Dragon Ball did, where they released a movie to gauge the interest, then made a series due to the popularity. Both the Dragon Ball Super manga and the Boruto manga's first arcs, in fact, are adaptations of the movie that came before them. And then the movies were adapted once again into the animes. But the way Dragon Ball Super has been handling the anime and the manga is a bit messed up, and it's just kind of a mess. But I'll talk about that another day. With all of that said, though, the Boruto team knew they had to get this formula right to tell a unique story without fillers, without delays, and in a way that will work with the monthly manga. So they decided to make the manga start as it did with the movie adaptation and the anime set before that arc, and have the anime adapt that arc later on. Not only that, but they also decided not to worry about the side characters, ability trainings, or basically any development at all in the manga. They decided to focus only on the main plot points and only on Naruto, Boruto, Kawaki, Kara, Ishiki, and Karma, and that's it. So they basically got the main plot points of the story and then basically just got the highlights of those main plot points, and that's what they give us in the manga so that they can really move the story ahead faster. That's not all they did with the manga, however, and I go more in detail about this during that first essay video that I did, so check that one out. And in order to fully fill everything out, fully develop everything, all the characters, the lore, everything, they basically left the anime to fully develop everything and really show us the full entire story. There are moments in the manga where they even say something, but we have no idea what they're talking about, and in the anime, we end up seeing what's happening. They also have canon books that are being written and that have also been adapted into the anime as well. So basically, their main focus with the full story for Boruto is in the anime, and the anime is even fully showing us all of the character development, extra arcs, giving us a bigger look into the world, showing us how things really begin to change, and like I said, is adapting all of the manga stuff and really building up on the manga stuff a lot. And it's also been adapting the canon books. In short, the anime will have the full story for Boruto, and I do talk a lot more about this topic during the second video essay, so if you want to know more about that, then definitely check it out if you haven't yet. They even said that they're planning Boruto this way so that Boruto won't have filler episodes. These filler episodes, as people call them in the anime, is basically non-canon. So the format they're using to handle the Boruto story, it really gives the manga time to move ahead without any problems due to its limitations. And as I said, the creators of the manga supervise the anime and tell the anime department what to do, what not to do, what to include, not include. They basically run the anime as well, for the most part. This makes it so that the anime is canon with no non-canon fillers. I say this because there are a few episodes that don't really do much in terms of the story in the Boruto anime, but it is still canon. So I like to call them canon filler. But again, the full story will be told in the anime, and again, I do go more in detail about this during that second video essay. So in short, what they're doing with Boruto is letting the anime be the focus in telling us the full canon story of Boruto, while the manga is a bit ahead and basically is just giving us like glimpses into what we can expect due to its fast-paced nature and the limitations that the monthly manga format has, which I do talk about in part 1 of this whole 3-part essay series. So for me, this really feels like it's genius as it works with the issues that people had about Naruto with the Naruto anime and the amount of non-canon fillers that it had. It also gives time for the manga to be ahead without the anime passing it or skipping things from it. The entire Boruto anime is canon to the manga, and the manga to the anime. And while I'm sure some people will say that's not true, I'll be making another essay defending the Boruto anime, where I talk about all of the examples people give to say that the anime contradicts things we've seen in the manga when it actually doesn't. I know many people would prefer for the anime to be seasonal as well, as some other animes are now being, or even for the manga to be weekly or bi-weekly. But really, the format we're getting is great, as it really lets them tell this massive story properly and in full detail. And basically, that's another thing I find as genius about the Boruto series. That being is that it knows what it's doing and it really knows where it's going. Like I said, they've been playing out the Boruto series since near the end of Naruto, and we can really see that they do know where the story is heading as we see it in the first minute of the first episode and also in the first few pages of the first chapter. It also leaves one thinking, is this what we're seeing the end of Boruto, or is it near the end? Well, we don't know when it takes place in terms of the full story, so it could be part of the final few episodes and chapters, or it might just be past the middle of the full story. Either way, wherever it takes place, it's still gonna be epic. And that's also just because they've been planning this overall story for such a long time. So they really know how to handle the development and give that to the anime, which again, I talk a lot more about in the second essay. And they also know how to really handle the entire Boruto plot, both the anime and manga, with a ton of hidden little clues, which I do talk a lot more about during that first essay. In short, the whole story for Boruto is so well planned that they're basically going all out in terms of little hints and little foreshadows, and the fandom is always discovering something new. And then we see the foreshadowing in the future chapters or episodes. This is just fantastic, as it really shows how deeply planned they have this story. And while I'm sure they will add or change a few things in their outlines of the story, I'm pretty sure that the main plots seem to be really set. What's also fantastic about the amount of detail and plot that they have is that they go further into those plots within each volume due to some notes from Kodachi, where he talks a little bit more about the ninja world and the state of things. And what's really cool is that we actually do get to see those in the Boruto anime. And I love how the series really relates similarly to the things that's happening today in the real world, with the use of technology versus hard work. It's a big thing in the Boruto series, just as it is in the real world. The series is fully blending all of the things from real life into the world that Naruto made. And it's really refreshing to see this journey that they fully planned for the most part and how everything comes together. Kodachi has even said that Boruto's story is basically like the Cold War, where everything is peaceful at first and then it gets really dark. And this is pretty present in the manga, but you don't get the full scope of this peace he's talking about unless you see the anime. And also, things have been getting darker in the anime. And it's interesting to see this because as things get darker and darker, you get shocked to see what's happening and how the characters have to completely adjust their lives, especially since the new generation basically only know what peace is and not what darkness is. Also, this is just a great change of pace from Naruto, where it was fully set in wartime, but Boruto begins in peacetime. And in the anime, we get to spend a good long time in this peaceful era, and then things begin to get dark. This is a great change of pace and lets it be really different from what came before, and in some cases a little different from most series, as this evolution is natural and realistic. Now, for some people, having multiple mediums telling a full story just doesn't make sense to them. They get lost in things such as, wait, where does this book take place? Is it being adapted in the anime? But it's different in the anime. Why is the manga not showing us this? Why is the anime focusing on this thing all of a sudden? And the fact that all of these different mediums tend to reference one another, it does leave things a little bit more confusing, especially since not everyone has access to all of those other mediums. But having at least one of them show almost everything in case some canon novels don't get adapted, it really shows that there's a lot of care because they know that not everyone has access to those other mediums. But again, if one of those mediums shows everything in time, it sort of appeals to those who can't experience the other ones and rewards you for seeing the full story. Having all of these different mediums in Boruto is so that people can experience these different story points until the anime fully adapts everything. This way they can see the whole timeline while the anime team works hard in making the episodes. In many ways, it's a big project and it does require a lot of input and control. And it's also really great that both Kishimoto and Kodachi basically have full control of everything related to Boruto, as this way there's no real interference, and if there is, since they're working so closely with the other departments, they could just say no, change this because that's not what we want to say or to show. And really, that's probably the biggest genius of Boruto, and it's how the creators of Boruto have almost full control of it and are really able to expand their story and really tell the story the way they want it to be told. They are able to fully tell their story and show what they want to show and not worry about trying to figure out what one person is saying or not. Because you see, for many expanded universe projects that are canon, the original creators of the series is not fully involved, and the owners of the property are the ones that hire a bunch of people to make the expanded works. This often leads people to not really know what the other people are doing and sometimes makes the expanded works messy. Thankfully with Boruto, the creators are a part of everything and they have to approve of everything. So the quality control on things such as the light novels really reflect the story as they are in charge of the plot outlines for everything. And having a smaller team filled with people that really know what to add and where the story is all gonna go is much better than having a ton of people in the team all trying to do something different. So with Boruto, I really feel like they got this formula right. And while the Boruto novels don't really expand the Naruto universe in ways that some of the canon Star Wars books expands the Star Wars universe, it does however expand the story of Boruto and the characters that we know, which again in turn gets adapted to the Boruto anime for the most part. I say this because as of August 2020 and episode 160 of the anime and chapter 48 of the manga, I believe only 2 canon light novels out of the 7 set in the Boruto timeline have been adapted into the anime. Hopefully they adapt the other 5 as some of them have some great content, especially the plot regarding the Retsuden novels. Anyway, this whole format of them being fully involved with everything, like I said, really allows the creator to fully focus on their story and tell it their way. It allows them to use a limitation they have and make it work. It allows them to appeal to their fans' wishes and not have non-canon content. And it also allows them to tell their story. And in a way, it almost feels like the main source for Boruto is not the manga, but the anime. Again, in a way, only due to it having the full story. But in truth, all 3 mediums are the main source of the Boruto story. But it still does feel like the true main source will be the anime in the end. And we can almost assume that if they do make another Boruto movie soon, that movie will be considered canon as well. But again, this is just an assumption until we see another Boruto movie. And if this movie that they do end up making ends up getting adapted into the anime or not. So the genius of Boruto might not be about who the characters are or even what the story is or the art or the way the arcs are being told. It's not about that. It's more about how they're telling the story, how they're molding everything and showing everything. It's doing a few things that we've seen before, but improving on it and making it its own. That's the genius of Boruto as a whole. Using the things that's come before and making it their own and really molding their own formula out of it. And it's also one that really works. And while I know there are a ton of manga purists out there who say this format is wrong and that the manga has to be the main source, but that's what I'm trying to tell you guys with Boruto. They changed the formula to fit them and their lives and give us things we wanted. Yes, the anime could very well be seasonal, such as My Hero Academia or Attack on Titan, and the manga could have more things in it and go at a slower pace, but they wanted to do something different, and honestly, they succeeded in making this formula, whereas Dragon Ball Super didn't. But again, Dragon Ball Super is for another day. So anyway, For the most part, yes, the manga is the source material in general, but not for Boruto. The Boruto manga is only showing us the highlights of the main plot points and laying down the groundwork for the future anime episodes. The light novels are showing us some side stories that are set in the canon story, and the anime showing everything from the other two mediums and more, again, if they make more Boruto movies. And also more, anime original arcs, which is again canon. So in a way, the way that they're handling Boruto for me is genius. I'm really excited for the rest of the Boruto series and the story it tells, along with the way that the story will be told. I hope that these three essays helped you get a better understanding of what they're doing with Boruto and how it all works and how unique and creative it really is. Hopefully, some of your hate towards it even calmed down. So, I just hope that you might have a clearer mind regarding Boruto, basically, and that you end up seeing the series as a whole with a more open mind. So, with all that said, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.